Thank you for tuning in. Ryan Brown from J. Ryan Brown Law. Today we are talking about the three biggest mistakes that drivers make when stopped for a DUI. So, law enforcement obviously has a job to do to make sure the roads are safe, but sometimes their enforcement can be a little aggressive. And just because they make a DUI arrest does not mean someone is guilty of DUI. Just last year, we tried at least three DUI trials that resulted in not guilty verdicts, meaning that a cop had charged someone with DUI, putting that stain on their kind of record in their life and a cloud hanging over their head. And then once the case gets to a jury, juries here in Coweta County say, you know what, that's just we're finding this person not guilty. The state's not met their burden. Maybe the investigation's not good enough. Sometimes officers lie. We'll talk about that later this month. But what I want to talk about is the three mistakes that drivers make that can make them look guilty of something that they didn't do. So first, and you'll see here on the screen, we're talking about field sobriety tests. And when I talk about these, there are three big ones. There is the HGN, that stands for horizontal gaze nystagmus, the walk and turn, and the one leg stand. I call these kind of the dog and pony show that happens on the side of the road. HGN is the, hey, follow my finger, okay, or my flashlight or my pin. Walk and turn is just what it sounds like. Hey, walk on this straight line, turn around, walk back. And then the one leg stand is stand on one leg, hands by your sides, count to 30, those kind of things that are hard to do, even if sober. So let's talk about why doing these is a mistake here in Georgia. The answer is very clear. We have a right not to incriminate ourselves. And because that is a right, refusing to do so cannot be used against us. So if the officer asks us to do a driver here in Georgia to do the HGN or the walk and turn or the one leg stand, and we say, you know what, officer, I understand you're doing your job, but I've got dinner reservations that I'm trying to make. So if I may, I'd like to continue on my way. I don't think I have time to do these tests. Law enforcement cannot use, prosecutors included, your refusal to do these tests against you. So, what is the negative to not doing them? Nothing. That's right. The negative to doing them, however, is substantial because these tests are designed to fail. You cannot, these are not pass fail tests. So it's not like, hey, you passed, you get to go home. Officers start at zero and kind of rank you going up. And they'll say, yeah, he showed 2 out of 6 signs that he was, inebriated, or that she was drinking. All right. So these tests are difficult. They're hard to do when sober. They're junk science, and your refusal to do them cannot be used against you. No one in Georgia should be doing these tests on the side of the road during an investigatory DUI stop. So next, the second mistake that people make is just talking too much. So officers are really good at getting people to talk. Most people, first of all, get nervous when they're interacting with law enforcement. Second of all, many people, if not trained in communication and public speaking, get very uncomfortable in silence. So you have the right to not incriminate yourself and answer questions and admit the things, right? You shouldn't lie to these officers either. If you had 4 beers and he says, how many did you have? You don't say 0, because then you're lying. That makes you look bad at trial if they can prove otherwise, and lying's not good. But you have to be comfortable in silence, and you have to be comfortable not giving in to authority and taking up for yourself. Hey, where are you coming from? Well, officer, I'd really like to, get on my way. Am I free to leave right now? You don't want to be combative because that's going to result poorly. Officers aren't known for handling tense situations all that well, but you certainly do not have to answer questions that are going to incriminate yourself. You also don't have to explain everything, right? Where are you coming from? If you're coming from dinner, just say dinner if you want to answer that question. The problem is the officer will sit there in silence and people try to fill that void. Oh, yeah, I was coming from dinner, but officer, it was in Atlanta, but I'm going back to Columbus now, and we didn't drink that much. And the officer's going to sit there and just let you keep going because he knows that you're not going to put that damn shovel down. You're going to keep digging that hole. And even if you're telling the truth, sometimes if you get wordy, it may sound like you're making something up. And that is not going to be good for you at trial. So remember, you have to be comfortable in silence. You have to be comfortable not answering questions that might incriminate you. And you have to not talk yourself into a hole. Put the shovel down. That's what I tell folks. Number three, consenting to searches. So, this is something that happens during DUI stops that can lead to other offenses or just really kind of ruin your day. So, if you consent to a search, that can quickly turn into, first of all, an extended traffic stop where they're tearing your car apart. If you have prescription medication, perhaps they start questioning you about that. All kinds of things, right? So, consenting to a search, we don't have to do officers' jobs. You don't have to let the government mess around with your stuff. You don't have to let them dig through your car. If they say, hey, we want to search your car, just tell them no, right? If they don't have a warrant, they don't get to search your car. And there's no reason you should just let them out of the goodness of your heart. That is not the kind of thing that you have to do. So, to recap, the three biggest mistakes I see people make during a DUI stop is one, consent to the field sobriety searches, two, not being comfortable in that silence, not using their right to remain silent, and three, consenting to searches of their vehicle. Don't do that. You ready to get home? Go home. Tell the officer you don't want to consent to that. Thanks for tuning in. This month, we're going to do several more videos on DUI.